So welcome everyone who have just joined us for Macquarie University's Postgraduate Expo session on Mastering Marketing. In this session, we'll have a really exciting and insightful marketing panel discussion with our leading academic and industry partners. So in the panel today, we have Professor Aaron O'Cass, who is the head of the marketing department here at Macquarie University. Aaron has published articles in leading international journals, served on various Australian government committees, and is rated in the top 1% of research productive marketing scholars globally. Next up, we have Marlene Nielsen, who is the Director of Marketing, Communications and Business Development at Deloitte. Now, as a Business Development and Marketing Director, Marlene has driven profitable growth by bringing cross-functional teams together and aligning business objectives and strategic marketing goals to deliver exceptional client experiences. And finally, we have Adrian DiFrancesco, who is a digital marketing and e-commerce specialist with over a decade of digital experience. So his skill set combines hands-on working knowledge of the full digital mix, including social, search, content, strategy, and e-commerce. He's currently driving the digital marketing for the Lego Group across the Australian and New Zealand markets. So I'm now going to pass over to you, Aaron, to get the discussion going.
Thanks, Olivia. I'm really looking forward to an interesting session tonight. And as Olivia said, we've got some of the leading marketers across various industries tonight. Marketing's facing a number of challenges, and it'd really be insightful if Marlene and Adrian could tell the audience tonight, what are some of the current issues and major challenges that you see marketers facing presently? Marlene?
Thanks, Aaron, and thanks, Olivia. It's great to be here and meeting all of you. So look, for me, being in professional services for over 20 years, one of the major issues and challenges that we see facing marketing is the competition is absolutely fierce. And you see traditional competitors, for example, at Deloitte, we've got the big four, like KPMG, PwC, but we've also got other big consulting firms like Accenture that increasingly team or acquire other organizations to come up with new services, offering solutions and products. So this teaming can range from creative agencies, working with engineers, infrastructure companies. So these days, when you have a look at the challenges that we face more broadly, it's much more around ecosystems of opportunities, and the competition is much broader than it used to be. And I guess from a brand perspective, that is very close to my heart. Societies and communities are looking at big brands to see how we stand up on important national issues such as diversity or climate change. And probably the most recent example is around vaccinations. And they want to hear our voice in the market, but also understand what we are doing ourselves. So from a marketing and communications perspective, we need to ensure we mirror our brand values in the market and also as an employer of choice. For example, I always use this example. Let's say, for example, we support women in tech, but we put a pitch together that does not reflect our commitment to diversity. We get questioned and may end up losing work. Similarly with sustainability, organizations may say that they're on a journey to become net zero emissions companies, but are they the ones who are seen to be printing reams of collateral at conferences? So those are two of the challenges that we see, Aaron.
Thanks for that, Marlene. Adrian, what are your thoughts on the challenges and issues facing marketers currently?
Definitely over the last year, of course, the pace of change with COVID, everything has come changing rapidly and continuously. And we're just kind of finding ourselves continuously having to adapt to that change. And I'm sure we're all no strangers to the word pivot. And pivot has just been, that word has been used so many times over the last year because that's all we've been constantly doing. So definitely that pace of change and being able to keep up with that. So not just from what we're putting out and the marketing activity and the campaign activity that we are putting out, and how that is connected with our audiences, but also as a marketing team and as marketers ourselves, being knowledgeable, being up to speed with what that change brings and how we bring that together as a team and collaborate, not just internally, but with the external, with the agencies and everybody else. So that's definitely been a major challenge. But also what that brings is, the expectations of the consumer, of shoppers, and how we can connect with them. Their expectations have changed just as rapidly as everything else has. There's definitely a sense of immediacy. Our shoppers, consumers, our audience, they really expect you to be able to engage or connect with them immediately, be constantly available as a brand. But they also expect flawless execution almost, because everything's been quite focused in, I guess, on what brands are doing, and with everyone stuck at home, there's less interruptions happening, so they're quite focused in on what's happening on their phone, and in the world of digital and what brands are doing on there. So they do expect a certain level of flawless execution, which has been really difficult because we have been moving so fast, and it has been hard to get out and collaborate with your teams. But also being authentic to the brand and being truthful. With everything that has happened over the last year and a half, there's a lot of activism happening, and a lot of sustainability on the agenda of a lot of companies. So there's a lot of brands out there saying that they are doing things, or they have a certain objective, or they have their brand stands for something. But are they following through with that? And that is a challenge if you are a brand or you're a marketer and you're going out to the public and saying you are going to do something. Making sure that you do follow through with that, but also making sure that what you're saying you're going to do is reflective of the brand and what you stand for, and does it represent your brand, truthfully.
That's really interesting. I pick up a couple of themes that both you were talking about, which is sort of ecosystem. The brand becomes prominent, and that raises issues about the multiple touch points that our customers or consumers come into play. And I know, Marlene, you come from a heavy B2B focus, but it's still relevant where our customers, our business partners interact with us at more touch points. In that context, what are some of the significant trends that you see in marketing moving forward? We see a heavy emphasis on digital. Do you think that's a trend that will stick with us? And how is that really growing? Marlene, I'd be interested in your views on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Aaron, and also picking up on what Adrian was saying, technology has certainly disrupted a lot of our traditional marketing methods, but also what a great opportunity. I think every company looks at their social, their web presence, looking at how to use data to make more informed choices of what is being consumed and what our clients want, and targeting them accordingly to be more relevant. Also, the importance of the integrated mass stack to drive automation and reporting and analysis and to contribute to insights is also a significant trend. And I guess for me, it's that that it's a constant challenge for marketers. How do we show our return on investment? How do we show our results and our impact, especially if you may not be at that pointy end? So absolutely, technology is a significant trend for us. But I guess for professional services, even with the trends in technology, professional services companies like Deloitte, we are still at the heart, we are a people business. Clients do not just buy our services, which could sometimes be multi-million-dollar projects based on a digital advert they saw or a blog that they read. That may influence it from a brand perspective, absolutely. But that personal interaction and expertise and understanding on organization is what really counts for us. So humanizing our approach, so similar to what Adrian was saying earlier, it is very important in our business. And we've definitely seen a trend in utilizing engaging storytelling techniques and different ways of building relationships with our clients to truly connect with them and really delight them in client experiences from the start to the end till they're ready to do the buy. So for us, we keep on pushing ourselves to be different. Adrian, you'll even be pleased to know that at Deloitte, we've even introduced Lego Play as a tactile activity for executives to visually illustrate the challenges they face.
Great, that's really interesting. Adrian, any thoughts on the trends in marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on some of these points before, but definitely that need to be constantly available. Like I mentioned, everybody's, especially now in Australia, the last few weeks or few months, everyone's stuck at home, and so there isn't that physical engagement that they can have. They to come and visit your physical store, to even engage with their friends or other people to talk about your brand. or your product. So how can you be constantly available and help to drive that conversation? And there are so many touch points, and there is certain expectations that your consumers or shoppers do have. So through social channels, what are you providing them, and how are you constantly adapting and making sure that with everything that is happening, that it is sensitive, it is reactive to what is going on, but it also helping to keep people, I guess, motivated, inspired. But being, through digital touch points and the multiple digital touch points, how does it all connect? And is it almost flawlessly, executed? That it is a holistic approach. So what you're seeing on social is that what's also reflected in your other digital channels, such as your website, and how you're maintaining that and representing your branding correctly and providing the information that's there. So it is holistic, but it's also maximising the ecosystem, and that's definitely a challenge. I'm currently working at Lego, and there's so much going on, and it has, our brand has been quite relevant and quite highly used over the last year, with a lot of people stuck at home and people finding new ways to engage with it. But how do we make sure that we are keeping people inspired and keeping them engaged with the brand has definitely been a challenge over the last year and a half, especially when they can't get out and everything was changing so rapidly where we are stuck at home. So, people want something new, but there isn't the ability to give them products straight away. So how do we maintain that brand engagement through new initiatives and get them, I guess, pulling out their old Lego toys, Lego bricks, and re-engaging with it in a different way? So that's definitely been a challenge with people stuck at home. How do you get them to keep engaging with your brand and find new ways to engage with your brand when they can't get out and engage in traditional ways? E-commerce has progressed so much. I believe many businesses, their 5-10 year roadmap for e-com has just accelerated and happened over 1 year. So a lot of the approach for marketing isn't just about top of the funnel anymore, but it's really being holistic at top and bottom of the funnel, because it's just the way that things have moved over the last year. So definitely moving into that space a lot more and having to rethink ways that we had planned for the year ahead to consider that full funnel approach. And so the other point as well, being measurable. And we've spoken about, how do we make that ROI, and how do we come in and think of that straight away? And that's definitely been the trend with a lot of things moving to the digital space, because it is a bit harder to measure a conversion, I guess, when we are talking that full funnel approach. So how are we making sure that our actions and all the digital engagements and digital initiatives that we are driving throughout the year is measurable and can provide a tangible outcome or results or insight can bring back to the business to continue to move along that the digital path. And I might be biased, and I might be because I'm a digital marketing manager that I've been stuck in that world a bit more. But it is constantly trying to find a way to prove your worth and prove what you're doing actually has a result. But while they might not necessarily be buying, because from a Facebook post that I posted up. And you can't drive that conversion, how can we make that measurable somehow in some ways, so finding new ways to partner, I guess, with different channels to help make that a measurable insight?
That's really interesting. I think a couple of points I'd pick up there is particularly what Marlene said, and you're alluding to it too, that marketing is still a high-touch discipline, high-touch function in organizations, and companies like Deloitte, the most valuable asset that the company has gets in the elevator every night and goes home. So in that sense, what we're talking about is how do people create actions, strategies that demonstrate success? And you were alluding to the ROI, etc., Adrian. It'd be really interesting for our audience, I think, to understand what are some of the critical marketing actions and strategies that you see in play that demonstrate success? What does success look like? And what are those strategies underpinning, do you think? Adrian, if you can answer that one for us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it always comes down to what's your objective, and making sure that that's really clear from the get-go. So that way you're keeping yourself on track, especially, like I mentioned, the pace of things, the way things are moving, and there are so many bright flashing lights to get you excited in the world of digital that you could go down the wrong path and start looking to start implementing or building out some new digital innovation. But making sure that you have your objective at the front clearly stated, and keep coming back to that when you are building out your program, building out your campaign, or working with agencies or working with other members of the team. What have you initially set out to do? And is everything that you are doing, the steps you are taking, is that going to bring you to that? So, if it's me, trying to prove the worth of a social post, for example, having a look at who are the other people in the team or the department that can help make that measurable, a measurable campaign or a measurable action, and it might mean tapping into comments together with them, because they are the owners of that bottom of funnel, and they've got clearer insights into what a conversion actually looks like and what that value is for that. So making sure you're leaning into other members of the team that can open those doors to really give those insights, because marketing, there are so many insights and there's so much data and information available. But making sure that you're laddering it back to your objective and making sure that you're tapping into the resources or partners that you have got within the business to help you bring that to life. And like I said, kind of keep continuing to prove your worth or prove your actions. It really does help. And it's kind of a strange thing to say, but and a strange way of working. But one thing, and it was somebody that a few years back to me, but his objective was to make his role redundant. And he was working in the digital space, and I thought that always kind of stuck with me, because making your role redundant doesn't necessarily mean not showing that you're not valuable to the business, that you're not needed, but it's making it seem like that you're so naturally integrated with the business that you're just part of the everyday of doing things. And so that's something that I always come back to, is how do I make sure that I'm naturally fitting into what we're doing, or what I am doing, and making it something that seems natural to the business and worthwhile, that they'll continue to come back to, that they almost don't even know that I almost exist anymore, that I am doing anything, because it's just so natural to them now to go down the digital path, or really start driving back to our ecosystem. So that's something that I always think about, and I always come back to. But the one really key one over the last year, and a really important strategy or a skill to have, is just making sure that you are agile. And be prepared to be agile, and like I said, pivot, and we've been constantly pivoting for the last 18 months. So just making sure that you are prepared to be agile and setting yourself up in a way that you can quickly move around, because priorities can change really quickly.
Thanks. Marlene, I'd be interested in your insights from a professional services point of view, and one of the biggest professional services organizations in the world. What are those actions and strategies that underpin success in your point of view?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. And I must say, I agree 100% with everything that Adrian is saying as well. For me, having a solid strategic marketing understanding and a framework that you can refer to when putting marketing and BD plans together are key, but also making really sure that they feed back to the original business objectives. But things like, when you're doing a pure brand awareness campaign versus when a client is really ready to make the buying decision, all of these involve very different tactics. And look, when you start off your career, you may not be the one putting the strategy together from the get-go, but you need to make sure as a marketer that you understand how your activity contributes to the strategy as well as the business objectives. And follow on from that, for me, another critical skills in professional services is business acumen. Being able to not just talk marketing, but to talk business and translate your language for your stakeholders so that they know what will drive growth and revenue for them ultimately. Because we want marketing to have a seat at the table when we make those strategic business decisions. I recently had an example of a very passionate marketer talking about social impressions and unique page views to a senior audience, which they didn't even understand what it meant. And what they really wanted to understand is, what is the comparative data? Was it a successful campaign? And how does it contribute to awareness and revenue in the end? So for me, those are two big things. But going back to what Adrian said previously is, you have to show your value, your impact, and your return on investment. You need to use the data that's available to us to support you now more than ever. And this can be pretty challenging when you are not always at the pointy end of a sale, which we as marketing at Deloitte, we are not. I'm not the one that's closing the deals. I am not the one delivering the work. But how do we influence the opportunity and how do we report on it successfully?
That's really insightful, which brings to another really interesting topic that I think the audience will glean a lot from your insights in. What do you think are some of the important skills and knowledge that are needed to develop a marketing career? Marlene?
So I think these days, I mean, we've spoken about it quite a bit already. You know, I think you need to have a very good understanding of the digital marketing space and the strategies and the available channels. Understand how they work, but also how they work as part of an integrated marketing campaign, as Adrian alluded to earlier. When we have graduates joining us, the number one area that they want to find out more about is to get a deeper understanding of digital, which they should. It may not be the path that they want to build their whole career in. For some it is, but it's important to have a solid understanding as it's such an important element of marketing these days. In our world at Deloitte and professional services, communication is a critical skill, whether that is internal or external or media or public relations type of communications. A competent and a concise writer and communicator has always been very beneficial in professional services, as a lot of what we do is to build thought-provoking, thought leadership pieces for our audience. But it's also a very important skill to have as we communicate with very senior stakeholders. I think the third thing I would touch on is, even at professional services firms, product marketing and type of co-marketing with alliances. So for example, if you had to co-market with Google Cloud or SAP or Salesforce, it's becoming increasingly important because of these ecosystems that's been built. And that is a different type of marketing than just profiling services or a brand. So it's good to get a good understanding of co-branding, propositions development with others, and of course, research also comes in very handy here.
That's really interesting. Adrian, what are the key skills and knowledge that you think we need as a marketer?
Yeah, definitely. To be able to adapt and adapting to where the opportunities are. I mean, that's been maybe my insight and my key to success in my roles through the years, where it's I've always looked for those opportunities and made sure that I was ready to adapt. To move into the next opportunity or the next role or the next company that I'm really passionate about, because you'll find that, that everything is always stepping stones, and there are a lot of great companies out there, great opportunities, that as you grow, what your needs are as a professional, as a marketer, they change as well. What you're passionate about changes. So just being prepared to adapt and then looking ways to turn those opportunities into your stepping stone opportunity, or shaping that next role into what you are really passionate about. And that's where I found, I guess, a lot of my happiness in my roles and my success over the years. From back in my early days of my first role in a women's fashion retail business, their e-com team, and they were just nearly started, but that just meant processing the e-com orders. But through that, I learned that there was an opportunity in their digital marketing space for ECRM, and they didn't have any social channels. So I built up those social channels for them, and I really worked to create and shape that role for myself, and really carve out those opportunities and those skills that I picked up there, help me move into my next role. That's something that's in the marketing space, and I mean, I've said it so many times, but it is constantly changing. So making sure that you're prepared to change with that, and using those opportunities and those changes to make it fit into what your goals are, and what you're looking to achieve. One thing that's really been key and really important, and that I'm still constantly working on, is working with data and insights, and how you translate data, how you communicate that data to other people in the business, and then making sure you turn those insights into action. So one thing, and again, going back to another leader that I had years ago, but it's another thing that's always stuck with me, and whenever I would present something to him, he would ask me, just tell me the so what and the what now. And that's what everyone wants to hear, but making sure when you're communicating that information, that it is it is easy to understand for the audience. What is it telling them? Why should they care? So what? And what now? What do I want to do? And what do I want to get out of this situation? So making sure that I clearly communicate that and really telling a story with the data, not just about being a digital, but marketing as a whole. There's a lot of data and insights that really help to shape your decisions and the way that you move forward with any campaign or marketing activity. So making sure that you've got a clear way that you're gonna do that, and you're adapted to how you tell that story to make sure that it is telling the right story. But also that be prepared to fail. I know it's a little bit cliche, but failure, the way I see it, is just practicing for success. And if you're fortunate enough to be working with a business that is open to, and they create that kind of culture, take advantage of it and allow it to be your testing ground for what you want to do, because it could be the thing that the business does with that can become a bigger campaign and something that you'll be really excited about.
That's really insightful. We've covered quite a lot of ground, and I think the final thing that I think would really be interesting to understand is, what do you think are some of the great career opportunities and paths out there? You both have long careers, quite diverse careers, getting to the point where you are. So Marlene, from your point of view, what are some of the great opportunities out there for marketing graduates?
So Aaron, I honestly think there are so many awesome career paths in marketing, and it's expanding every year. For example, this year we appointed a chief storyteller, and I know Optus recently appointed a chief optimism officer to increase internal engagement, specifically around their brand. So for me, my advice is to look out for those companies that can provide you with an opportunity to grow and develop in the long term. Personally at Deloitte, I've held at least 7 different roles in South Africa and in Deloitte Australia, from business development to account management to brand to solutions and offerings to sector-based marketing, brand, you name it. And I can honestly say that every opportunity provided me with a new skill that I can add to my marketing toolkit. So similarly to what Adrian said, is for me, is being open to opportunities. You can and forever just build on your marketing toolkit to become a well-rounded marketer. And some may want to specialize, and others may prefer to become more marketing generalists, which like I have done throughout my career, and then moving up the ranks into more senior leadership and team responsibilities as well. I'm super passionate about building teams, leading teams, and creating great client experiences. So for me, that's been great for my career. But I guess is getting to know and getting a really good understanding of the various parts of marketing, so you can truly walk in other shoes. You may not want to be an editor, but you need to understand what is important to them for them to do their job. Similarly, for a salesperson that needs to make a deal, or somebody from a BD perspective that's putting a strategy together, to understand how that works all makes you a well-rounded marketer, just to understand it, even if it's not something that you want to specialize in.
Great, thanks for that. I'm really mindful that the time has flown. This conversation's been so interesting. I'll just hand back to Olivia now. And I really want to thank you so much for joining tonight. And it's been so insightful. Back to you, Olivia.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Well, a big thank you to all of our panelists for a really insightful conversation. I just have a final question for you, Aaron, before we go into a little bit of Q&A. I was just wondering if you could give us a quick snapshot of the Master of Marketing program and how we've designed that program to meet some of the demands of the industry.
I think that's a really interesting question, because there's so many different programs out there, and from the ground up, this program's been designed with the industry's needs at the heart of it and what graduates need to move into careers. So it's really an applied course. It's a course that mixes theory with a heavy application. We use a concept called authentic learning to underpin the whole course. And the course is designed for people that are starting out in their career, but also those that want to upskill. And it's underpinned by 6 key premises. The first is that it is a course designed for people who want to be specialist marketers. What you've seen tonight is great career opportunities, interesting career paths, tackling the big challenges that both organisations and society face. The second premise underpinning the program, it combines both functional knowledge with critical knowledge, bringing that critical problem-solving skill to bear on the challenges that marketers face. So it's a mix of theory and practice. The third pillar is those that are trying to boost their career path, their entry into organisations that have both some marketing background or marketing work experience. So it caters to both those potential types of students. But at the heart of the program, it equips graduates with relevant knowledge, industry relevant knowledge, because industry is our partner in designing and delivering. And it really tries to engage and ensure that when students walk off the campus for the last day or they get their job, what they've learned is applicable straight away. Many of our classes have people engaged in the class that come from the companies and are working with those students, mentoring and help them train. But the program really is quite unique. Currently in Australia, it is the #1 marketing program, and it's been that way for the last 2 years. And it is the only Master of Marketing in Australia that's ranked in the top 20 globally. So it's a highly competitive, high quality program that equips graduates to walk into companies and make a valued contribution. So that's really the heart of the Master of Marketing.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for that overview. Now, I mean, if any student watching at home wants to know more about the Master of Marketing, or, you know, professional looking to get into this particular industry, you can look at the degree and some of the more specific information on our website. But I will jump into the Q&A. Thank you so much for everyone for sending through a few questions. Just because of time, I'll probably ask one question to each of our panelists. So I will start with you, Adrian. There is a big fan of Lego somewhere in the audience who says it's probably their biggest investment during COVID. But they were just wondering if you could share some insights or examples of Lego's key branding strategies, or maybe how you go about, you know, your branding strategies in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's look and understand that it's Lego as the underneath it. There's actual several other brands, actually about 60 something other sub brands that sit underneath Lego. So you got Lego City, which it talks more to younger boys. We've got Lego Technique, which is, you know, teenagers to adults. We've got Lego Duplo, which is for preschool. So there is very much a segmentation strategy, I guess, starting off to talk to our key audiences and making sure that we work with Lego to those specific audiences and what they are asking for, those desires. But I guess from a master brand approach, it's been quite an interesting journey over a few years, because we have been so focused on these other sub brands or things that the big master brand Lego has been, you know, the behind it, but focused in on that. And maybe I will focus in more just what Lego has done over, you know, lockdown and the COVID, which I found really I found really masterful. What they have approached had said, like I said, it was about very much looking at how we inspire people when they're stuck at home to keep playing with the Lego they've already got. And there was almost a call to say, don't ask people to buy more of our product, ask them to play with. And I thought that was really interesting, and that's inspiring to work for a company that can almost say that. So they were, I mentioned, you know, pivot and agility so many times, but we were really quick to pivot when everything did shut down and everybody was stuck at home, to almost say, you know, what can we do, and how can we help to be the facilitators of play while everyone's stuck at home, and make that situation, you know, a little bit better without asking people to go out, because you can't. Everybody's stuck at home, and everyone was really trying to change. So we put together, and as a global initiative that was really reactive, which was let's build together. Was a campaign that was put together in a matter of weeks, and we had a little Lego brick mascot to represent it, and it was collecting any content or videos that we did have put together over the years, which was just about generic play and inspirational builds, and repackage that up to fit in with that branding. So it was a very master brand approach, talking to Lego as a whole and not really talking to a specific audience, but just talk to everyone to say, pull out those Lego bricks that you've got sitting under the bed or tucked away, or don't just build them and display them on your shelf apart, and let's create something new and let's build together because we're in this together. And so that was quite a long campaign that was we can flex in and out now and be really reactive with it as different countries go through different waves of lockdown. We can pull in that campaign to really drive Lego as a master brand and really be a functional brand, an inspirational brand, and a really relevant through a really difficult time. So that's I guess one of the brand strategies, and it was a really short-term, quick turnaround, but there is a bigger kind of picture, and I'd recommend everybody have a look at the Rebuild the World campaign, which has been running for about 3 years now, which is the Master Brand campaign. It's off in 2019, which is it's pulling from that same concept, like rebuild the world, use your bricks, use the bricks you got at home to create something new, and not just to build it and put away, but we create something and open up your mission. And it doesn't matter if you're a preschool or an adult, you can create something new and get and relevance as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I mean, it's so interesting to hear about all of the, different strategies that are in play and how you've actually just responded to what's going on in the world, but tied it into, the brand of Lego. So that's really great. I'll target one to you, Marlene, sorry. So a lot of business graduates really are excited by the idea of, working at the Big Four due to their reputations. So what tips would you give to marketing students who want to work with Deloitte or maybe another Big Four company?
Yeah, look, there's some great opportunities, right? And I think it is just to say yes to those opportunities and look out for those opportunities. I guess for us, we're very open to interns, supporting coming in from a marketing perspective and joining some of our teams, and doing meaningful work as well, I must say. And then every year we've got a graduate intake on numerous occasions. And I guess some of the other Big Four, like PwC, EY, KPMG, they also have similar programs. So I guess it's, how do you put your best foot forward? How do you prepare? How do you connect with people that may be already with Big Four to get a bit of insight to position yourself well for interviews, and to get in early for graduate positions? The graduates that we take, I think about 3 or 4 streams of graduates throughout the year. And then they get placed in a type of rotation basis within our marketing, communications, business development. And it's usually on a 6-month basis that you'll have the opportunity to rotate either to pure marketing or into brand or into account management and the like. So again, getting you to become a well-rounded marketer. And once you completed that 18-month of graduation, there's usually consultant positions that open up. And that is when you maybe want to find your niche. You may decide, I want to go into digital. And that is the opportunity to do it then. So there's some great opportunities there. I guess the competition, it is fierce. So the more inside intel that you can get, the more research that you do, the more homework that you do, and trying to differentiate yourself when you come up and pitch up for that interview.
Great, thank you so much for that advice and your insights into that. Now, I'll just finish off with one more question for you, Aaron, in regard to the course. So obviously we've got 2 great panelists here who have, had really great and successful careers in marketing. But as a student completing the Master of Marketing, what sort of, work integrated learning components are available, or practical experience that lets students kind of get inside knowledge into the industry and get that experience before they then apply for roles or go into the workforce?
That's a really interesting question, and it becomes more and more relevant as we sort of move forward with this notion of employability. As I said, the Master of Marketing is underpinned by the notion of equipping students to be job ready, which means we have to engage with industry. And I mentioned we use this notion of authentic learning. We try and replicate in the classroom as close as possible the experience they'll have inside companies. We run things like live case studies where business people come in and brief our students on problems they're having, and the students work all semester on solving those problems. The other thing we do is we have competitions. We recently ran a competition for our students with quite substantial prize money. If I wasn't a staff member, I would have entered the competition myself. And the whole case of the competition was to develop new product ideas for one of Australia's largest tax accounting firms. And the students competed over a month or so, pitched their ideas to the chief executive officer, and we had the first, second, and third prize winners. The other thing we do is we use extensive simulations, and we have extensive industry engagement where we provide opportunities for our graduates to go out and experience internships as part of that learning experience. We've recently sent graduates to construction companies, and we have a range of other organisations like Bayer that we work with to put students into. So the opportunities are there to both meet theory with practice, and that becomes part of the key when the companies themselves, the managers, come into the classrooms and work with the students. So in each and every unit, there's an opportunity to experience something related to the work environment that the graduates will have when they move.
Amazing. It's really good to hear about all of those different opportunities, you know, whether it is an internship or just connecting with industry professionals in all the units that students could potentially complete. So thank you so much for that. That was our last question for today. If we didn't get to your question, I am really sorry, just in the sake of time. We will be finishing up, but we will try and get back to you, or you can always contact our postgraduate team. At the moment, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of our guest speakers for their time and their insights into both the marketing profession and the industry. So for those of you working at home, watching at home, we will be sending out some detailed information at the end of the expo that contains our contact details and how you can book a one-on-one consultation to realise your career goals at Macquarie. So you can ask any question through those sorts of avenues. But for now, take care everyone, and we hope to see you at Macquarie University soon.